Hey, welcome. My name is Rusty Mardis, and I am a retired Air Force Mustang and an OEF veteran. I want to welcome you tonight to Veterans in Bars Getting Bourbons. Cheers. Well, welcome back to Veterans in Bars Getting Bourbon. I'm here with my special guest, Ray Centano. He's with the, has an app that we're going to talk about, No Warriors Left Behind, and also leads the Fearless Messengers group at the Crossroads Church up in Oakley. So we'll get into that a little bit. But before we sit down and talk, we have to have something to drink, right? Okay. You can't be two veterans hanging out in a bar without and especially if it's bourbon, about bourbon, and not have a drink. So we need to delve into the drink. So if you've seen the show before, what I like to do is I like to choose a specific bourbon for the person that I'm interviewing. And so for this particular one, what I chose was Very Old Barton. Now, Very Old Barton is a great bourbon. It's a what we call a discount type of bourbon, but it's a really good bourbon. It's 75% corn, so it has heavy corn on it, and it is a dark caramel in color. It is has kind of a fruity taste to it. Again, that caramel taste. Of course, it's done in oak, so it has that oak flavor, but it has that cherry and a little bit of spice, and just a little tad bit of butterscotch. So I like to, you know, I'm really stretching the tail here. I'm going to call it a special VOB Manhattan. It's really kind of pushing the limit of being a Manhattan, but let's figure that out. And the reason I chose this bourbon for you is because we've known each other for a while, right? Yes. But I remember the first time we met a few years ago, and it's like you came into my office, we sit down and talk, and it's like just being with a friend. And this is what this is. This is a great bourbon. Me and my wife drink this, I won't say daily, but this is our go-to bourbon almost daily because you can pick this up. This big bottle is under 20 bucks. And so it's reliable, and you just sit down, it's just like an old friend. And that's the way you are to me. Just you know, we're just friends. Awesome. You know what I mean? And of course your app is like that too. You know, it's a friend to you. Okay. So that's the reason I chose that. But we want to make those drinks. So let me grab a couple of bourbon glasses here. I'll hand that one to you. So these special bourbon glasses actually came from an event that we do every year. But you do me a favor, just fill those full of ice. And completely put a whole bunch of ice in there. Okay. We went a lot of ice in it. Fill it all the way to the top. While you're doing that, I'll crack that open. Get that started. Yes. What do you smell?
This smells like butterscotch.
Yeah, got a little of that cherry, a little bit of spice, a strong oak flavor to it as well, or a smell to it. Now I said that I'm gonna call this a Manhattan, but it's kind of pushing the envelope for it. I toyed with doing a mule with this as well, but we're gonna kind of combine those two types of drinks together. And you know, I know you're from Ohio. Well, you're originally from
Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico, but Ale 8 is a staple in Kentucky, and it goes really well with bourbon. It's kind of a ginger citrus. And with that cherry and citrus with the Very Old Barton, it's just a great combination in my opinion. So what we're going to do is we're just kind of pour to taste. And if you don't know, you always do a double pour of bourbon. And it's really just to get the mixture going in there because you don't have any sediments and stuff, so you get a better flavor. So you pour to taste. I like a heavy hand, so I typically pour a little heavier. But no pressure, you pour to taste.
Okay. I'm more of a rum drinker.
Well, we're going to switch it here. And then we're going to kind of mix that with that Ale 8. Again, it has that ginger flavor. It goes really good with that citrus of the bourbon. And the reason I said I'm going to call it a little bit like a Manhattan. And the reason I say that is because I always throw a couple cherries in it. Oh. And the main reason for that is because of that, that cherry flavor that's in that bourbon. It really brings out that cherry flavor of with the cherries added to it. So we'll get that in there. Give that a little bit of a stir.
First timer. First timer,
huh? Well, let's see on camera what you think of that. So, good old, very old Barton, Ale 8, couple of cherries, simple, easy, a go-to drink you can have on a regular basis. If it's cold out, if it's warm out, it doesn't matter.
Thank you, sir.
Cheers. Let's see what you think. Cheers. That is really good. It is really good. The nice thing about the very old Barton as well is it's smooth. You know, so I'll drink this. Like I said, I'll mix it. I'll put Coke in it. I'll put some Ale 8 in it, or I can just put it on the rocks and drink it straight up like that. So it just depends.
It is pretty
smooth. It's really smooth. All right, let's go sit down and talk a little bit. Okay.
All right.
All right. All right. Well, welcome back. I'm sitting here with my good friend Ray, and we're going to talk. We're going to delve into some more information about your time in the Navy. So you mentioned earlier that you spent 15 years in the Navy. Why did you choose to join the service in the first place? And why did you choose to go to the Navy?
I grew up watching movies about the military. And I always wanted to be in the military, do something bigger than myself. The Navy was like a fluke because I actually wanted to go into be a ranger and a special force, but I was found colorblind and I couldn't be infantry. So the fallback was the Navy, and I just went in, and I loved it, every minute of it.
So you said you went to go Ranger school, so you were thinking Army to start with. Mm-hmm. You ended up going to the Navy and fell in love with it, and ended up staying up there 15 years. What did you actually do in the Navy? What job did you do?
In the Navy, I was pretty much, it's called a bosun's mate, but it's pretty much like Popeye. It's the oldest rate on the Navy, and it does everything from driving the ship, taking care of the ship, shooting the big guns. A lot of the different jobs they are in the Navy came out of that one job that made it easier for the bosun's mate, the gunner's mate come out of there, the machinist mate come out of there.
So you were kind of all-encompassing, can handle just about everything that came on. So my cousin was in the Navy. My cousin was in the Navy, and I had a cousin that was in the Air Force. Okay. And when I decided to join the military, I talked to both of them, and they both said it's kind of a job after you get through basic training, do all this other things. Well, I chose to go to the Air Force because I sink real well, but I can't swim. So are you like a great swimmer to be in the Navy?
I grew up in Puerto Rico, and I used to surf and scuba diving, and I love the ocean. So it was like a no-brainer. Out of the when I was disqualified for infantry, I was like, well, Navy it is.
So my cousin, one of the cool things, the guy was in the Navy forever. He actually retired Army, so we went the other way. He went Navy for a long time, then went and joined the Army. But he went all over the world. I mean, he was traveling all the time. Did you get to travel quite a bit? And how was that kind of deployment rate for you as part of the Navy?
For me, I was active duty for almost 4 years, and I lived in Japan, in Sasebo, Japan. When I was there, I traveled to all over Japan. We got Singapore, we went to Okinawa, Australia, all over that place. Then after the 4th year, I went back to college to finish school, and I went reserve the rest of the time. And then in 2004, I was activated to go to OIF. At that time, I was in distribution and supply chain. That's why I was boot on the ground. I wasn't on the ship. Okay. And I actually I probably know why your cousin went from Navy to Army, because it's really difficult to make rank in the Navy, and it's a bit easier to move forward in the Army.
Gotcha. Okay. Do you mind telling us, because you did 15 years, so tell us a little bit about why, what was the decision to go ahead and get out at that point in time?
Well, it wasn't my decision to begin with. I wanted to stay in. I always said that I was going to stay in the military until I got kicked out, which I did. I was medically discharged in 2008 from an injury that occurred during my deployment to Iraq in 2004.
Do you feel comfortable to share a little bit about that? How kind of the experience that went through? Did that help kind of, I guess what I'm trying to get to is, did that help drive your motivation, your passion to do what you do today?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I was hurt in Iraq, and I was medevac out to Kuwait Medical Center, and from there I was medevac to Germany. And during all that transition, I saw the carnage of war. So many warriors hurt seriously, limbs. I saw bodies, and coming back home, all that stuff stayed with me. And seeing, the suicide numbers being 20, 22, whatever it is today, in my experience, after I came back, living with all that, helped me to come to grips and move forward with the app.
Okay. Absolutely. Your transition was a little bit different than, say, like mine, because I retired in 2014, and where you were medically retired or medically discharged. How did that affect your normal transition back into, the quote-unquote civilian life?
It's a little different because I was at the reserves at the time, so I was activated. We went to training before deployment. After I got back from deployment, I was outpatient in a hospital in Virginia, Portsmouth, for 6 months. So that transition there was good and bad because it kind of prepared me to the civilian world again after being through war and all the changes.
Right. So I know one of the things that I struggled with when I got out of the service was that loss of purpose and passion. Because when you're in the service, you have a mission, you know what you're going to accomplish, and you pretty much know how to accomplish it, or you adapt and overcome until you get it done. When I came back into the civilian world, there was no direct, link. It's like, okay, now what? There is no in-processing center like we did in the service. That's one of the reasons TVCA created a veteran in-processing center to make it a little bit more comfortable and fall through that. What were some of the things that you can advise service members that are in the process of transitioning now, or ones that have been out for a while and still trying to transition? What's the best way? Any advice for them?
I would say continue looking to serve something outside of yourself. In order to find a purpose, you have to find something that is going to be bigger than yourself. Whether it is doing something for the community, maybe it's something you want to do for your family, something that it's going to give you that sense of purpose. There's many avenues that you could explore, even if you transition from reserve back to civilian. When you go back to the civilian, in your job, you can start looking for ways to serve other veterans. And maybe starting a veteran group at your job, maybe doing outreach during the holidays and stuff like that to help you continue having that sense of purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and one of the things, like I mentioned before, the Tri-State Veterans Community Alliance, what we can do is help that transitional process. And we're a connector and collaborator, right? So we can connect to those locations, connect to the organizations. And when we come back, we're going to take a quick break, maybe do a refresher of the drinks. We're going to delve into more about how you're doing that through the app and also through you know, kind of your role at the Crossroads Church in Oakley, running the Fearless Messengers, the veteran resource. So we'll be right back to talk more about that, but in the meantime, let's do a cheers to you. We appreciate you in your service time, and
thank you.
We'll do a cheers in the Navy too. I don't even know what do you say when you join the Navy? What's the Navy term? You know, Army is hooah.
Hooyah.
Hooyah. Cheers. Cheers. All right, well, welcome back. We got a refresh of our drinks. It's really good. Yeah. Very old Barton with some Ale 8 and a couple of cherries thrown in there just to really enhance that flavoring of the oak and the caramel and the cherry flavor that comes naturally to this bourbon. Very light, easy to drink, and really great flavor. But we're here with Ray. He just spent some time telling us about his service in the United States Navy, and but now we want to delve into a little bit more about what you're doing now. So tell us about a little bit about how you came about developing the app, No Warriors Left Behind, and what it's about.
All right. A few years ago, in 2013, I was fired from my job for the second time in like less than 2 years. The second time I got fired, I was told that I was too military. So I went through my savings, and I was struggling really hard. And finally, the VA picked up with my application, and everything's got a little better. And then I got this thought of how tough it was for me to find resources and stay above water. So I wanted to help the guys that were in the similar situation that I was. And just thinking about it, and I just thought about this thought came to me. I think it was pretty much God, because it got nothing to do with me, because it's an entrepreneur idea, and it's a technology idea, and I'm not very technology savvy, to create the app, No Warriors Left Behind. And after some struggle with finding a coder and finding people, I was able to find a third-party platform where I was able to put the information that I needed. And that's how the app came about, with resource list of different organizations. And there's some organizations in there that actually I try and help me out tremendously. There's a icon to get information for loved ones and friends that don't know what PTSD is, or PTS. So it tells them what does it look like, what does it feels like, what does it smells like. It educates the family and friends. There's a list of veteran-owned businesses, so we can still connect it, because I have found that every time I go somewhere and I meet another veteran, it helps my mental state.
Right, and I think that's a key and important couple of, well, a lot of great points that you threw in there, but we talked about that purpose and passion, but it's also that community, right? It takes a tribe to help support and build, and you build such strong relationships when you're in the service. A lot of times when you get out, you struggle a little bit to find that. So this is not only a connection, but it also provides resources. And one of the tools that I really like about your app is it's kind of a direct connect right to you. So they can put a comment in there, and you'll respond right back to them and say, yes, this is what I recommend, or this is what I experienced, and this is how. And again, it helps build that community and that connection to that. So that's really cool. You also run a kind of a veteran group through Crossroads as well. Is that correct?
Yes, there was one of the things that I have found was that there is a lot of organizations that are out there to help veterans with all different, whether it is a gym or whether it is a affiliation and money or all these other things, but there's not a spiritual base part. And that's where I came up with this idea of starting a group at a church where it brings together purpose. First of all, we will work with the community, which is giving us purpose to work with other people, especially veterans. But if there's not veterans to help other people, we doing things for God. Every time we went out in operations, we were out in camp, and we were going outside the wire. Before we went outside the wire, we did a prayer. So we recognize there's a higher power that we pray for, safety and security and completion, and that power will help us come back. So that's we do that, and also is a support group to where everybody have everybody's phone number and email, and if somebody has a bad day, or it's going down the rabbit hole, that's what I call it, when you go into the dark place, they can reach out and maybe call somebody that in the group that can help them get out of that situation.
Yeah, and that's so important. Again, we talked about having that community of support, but you also have to have that trust, right? And I had Jesse Neek, if you know Jesse, from 22 Until None on the show a couple months ago. And one of the things he talked about was, you know, when you go through those thought process of wanting to commit suicide, and I went through that as well, it's kind of a split decision. And you make the wrong decision, or you can make the right one by reaching out. And you can do that through the app, or you can do that through that connection, or you can do it through the hotline as well. But being able to reach out and just understand that you're not the only one. We all fall into dark times and dark places, and sometimes just being able to reach out and know that and just connect with someone, it can mean the world of difference. And you provide that capability through not only the app, but also through the Fearless Messengers.
Absolutely. That's one thing that when I was creating the app, I wanted to, because when we go to the VA, they give us a little wristband that has the national hotline, but the national hotline is for every U.S. citizen, every single person that lives in this country. And to make the differentiation, you have to press 1 so they know that it's a veteran calling in. With the app, there's a hotline number that you only tap 3 times. You don't have to remember a number or press 1. You tap it 3 times and it goes straight to a person, to a desk, somebody who's waiting for that phone to ring.
That's awesome.
And then and they're trained to talk to you as a social worker and find what are the needs that are bringing you to that point. And if they need to transfer you, they hands you off. They don't put you on hold or nothing like that. They just, while you're online, they'll get somebody else online to help you.
That's awesome. No, I think that's great. And it's another avenue of service. And, it's, again, that direct connect, which is so important. So if there's someone out there, and I hope they are, if there's what we call an angel donor out there, and they have $1 million that they want to give to your organization, what would you do with that money?
That would be awesome. That would be a great beginning to get this app to be even more powerful, to have not only the services that are right there now, but also have stories of people included in the app, because right now it's a third-party platform, so it's not, I cannot do any more than what it has right now. But I think survival stories of people who have overcome suicide, people that are doing different things to still connected with the community, their family, those stories will help other veterans. I found out that not only having purpose is one thing to help us continue on, but every single person, there's a different motivator to continue forward. Absolutely. They want to see somebody that have been through the same thing they're going through, and they can see that somebody else survived through it.
Absolutely, yeah, and again that connection, right? That connection. So that's the most important part. So Kind of the next question I have for you is, what's the best way for people to be able to reach out to you? I'm assuming it's through the app, so how do they get the app? If there's other ways they can reach out, how should they do that?
Right now, the app is free, both in Android and iPhone. There's also a No Warriors Left Behind Facebook page. There's No Warriors Left Behind Instagram, and that's where I post inspirational messages. I put advertising about veteran organizations or things going around in town, and those are mainly like the ways that I connect with the public. You know, all this. The app has a social wall that you can put questions or comments, and I monitor that during the day, every day. So those are pretty much the ways. You can also reach me at rcenteno@nowarriorsleftbehind.com.
So, and you know, who else that you come across working with the app or through Fearless Messengers, or you know, just in your research, who else is supporting military veterans and their families that we need to be on this show and get their story out to the public?
There's several different organizations and people. There's a Marine friend of mine. He was in Iraq, and he works with different organizations here in town in Kentucky. Sam Deed, he's very active. He's a very good resource. He's got a beautiful story, a very inspirational story that goes along with what I'm doing, with what you're doing, with what TVCA is doing, with what Wounded Warriors doing, all different organizations. He's an excellent person.
And it's kind of funny because we were talking about this during the break. You know, you asked me if I knew Sam, and I don't know Sam. I haven't met him yet. I hope to meet him soon. But I met his wife the other day in the gym, and it's like you're the second person in 3 days to ask me if I known him. So it's like it's meant to be, right? That we need to get connected. So it'll be exciting to get that connection.
He's an outstanding resource. He's connected with different organizations. He has a whole blown out long weekend just for Purple Heart and Gold Star families. He's a wonderful person.
That's awesome. I appreciate that, and I can't wait to get that connection and learn more about Sam. But of course, for everybody that is out there to get in touch with you, they want to make sure they go to Google Play or to iTunes to download your app and get that on their phones, because it's a great resource and be able to do that. Really, the last question I have for you is, whatever I forgot, what haven't we talked about that we need to just get out there?
Well, I would encourage everybody to be mindful of the people around. You never know who is a veteran around you, and just to be grateful. We don't ask for anything, we don't want anything, but sometimes just a small gesture of thank you, or just, you know, respect for what we hold dear, as goes a long way.
Yeah, great words, great point. Well, I greatly appreciate you taking the time to come out to Veterans in Bars Getting Bourbon. I hope you enjoyed your kind of first experience with what we're calling a unique Manhattan with the very old Barton and some Ale 8 and of course a couple of cherries. Smooth, easy drink.
Sure is.
Like I said, the reason I chose is because you're a friend, right? You're a friend to everyone. And that's one of the reasons you create that app, is so you could be accessible but also make a difference into the lives of our military veterans and their families. So cheers to you for that, and appreciate it tremendously. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you want more information, you can certainly reach us on our Facebook page. We have two. It's the Tri-State VCA, that's Victor Charlie Alpha, or the Northern Kentucky Military Veteran Coalition. So Northern Kentucky MVC, Mike Victor Charlie. Of course, you can find all the information on our webpage, www.tristatevca.org, or you can call us at 513-845-6822, and we'd be happy to connect you with Ray or with any of the other services that we provide. Hope to talk to you soon. Ray, thanks again, and cheers to you. Cheers, Bar.
Booyah.